Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated real estate, business, cryptocurrency, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth, or help your clients do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I am joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, cryptocurrency, and leadership minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest, and he teaches the science of success. Okay, and he teaches at the University of Texas, along with 12-minute a day technique that typically doubles entrepreneurs' income within a year. In fact, when he turned 50, he discovered something life-changing. At 50, he wasn't as successful as he thought he should be. Then it came to him. He found the top book in the world on success and applied that book literally word for word in his life. That book is Think and Grow Rich, and he's here to share that wisdom with us and so much more as we talk about $5 million, the science of success, and how we can level up as entrepreneurs. Please welcome to the show with me, John Mitchell, out of the great state of Texas. John, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Brett.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, get to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Well, just like you said, when I turned 50, I wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. And I really had two goals in my life to make enough money so I didn't have to work and to find the woman of my dreams. And so at 50, I was falling short on both of them. And, on the money, I always made $200,000, $300,000 a year. But when I turned 50, and I know this may sound materialistic, but I'm like, I'm not going to have the exceptional life unless I start netting $1 million a year. And so that was a challenge. And on the girl at 50, I'd never been married, although I did a lot of interviewing. Although my friends maybe have called it begging, I prefer to call it I'm interviewing. But anyway, at 50, I'm trying to figure out, well, how do I change my history, this history of low six figures a year? And so one night, this pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply it literally word for word to my life. Well, I don't even know if there is one book above all others. And I do a little research, discover there's one book that's been read by literally 100 million people, and the next best-selling book on success has been read by less than 10 million people. And so that book is Think and Grow Rich. Well, exactly what I was looking for. So I like make a beeline to the bookstore, get the book, read the book. But Brett, once I read the book, it says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives you half of the secret. And it's on the reader to figure out the other half. And so I'm bummed out, and I probably mope around for 3 weeks. And then one day I just wake up and go, just man up and figure out the full secret. And so I just immersed myself in the book for like 2 months. And what emerged was I figure out the full secret. I figure out a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And quickly my income starts doubling in a new business I started in the reverse mortgage business, to where 4 years later, I'm blessed to be netting $5 million a year, which was, 25 times what I'd ever made before. And of course I felt blessed. But what was so cool, Brett, was I could see why it was happening. I mean, it worked because I was focused only on what moves the needle. I had tripled my discipline so I could do those key habits I couldn't do before. And I had new ideas coming in my head every single week that just weren't coming in before. And I just became fascinated by the fact that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so materially impact your success. And to wrap this up, I ended up selling my company, and a couple of months thereafter, I met the former chancellor and president at the University of Texas, and he said, "Hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together?" So that's sort of my journey. And today, with my partner, Kelly Hatfield, she and I focus on taking entrepreneurs to netting 7 figures a year by teaching our methodology.
Oh my goodness, fantastic! Absolutely love it. Love that book, Think and Grow Rich. In fact, I just read or listened to a an audio version of a little bit smaller, condensed version of that. But it's an amazing book, and I'm looking forward to applying those principles and more of those techniques that you've been using, and talking about the $5 million of science of success. But before we even go into that, I want to take one other step back, John. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. I want you to go back to maybe your high school days, your college days. I believe these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them strengths, some people call them superpowers. I believe they're God given gifts and they've been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what are those one or two strengths, gifts, or superpowers that you believe you've been given? And how does that help how you help and bless people today?
That's a great question. That really is. And my superpower, I think, is taking the complex and making it simple. And I discovered this when I was like about 27 years old. And I see that it ended up playing such a pivotal role as I read Think and Grow Rich and figuring out how to decipher all the things that it says in there and make it simple. And that's hopefully what I've done.
Fantastic. So taking the complex, making it simple, and it's not an easy thing to do. And that's a great segue into the next part of the show, which is talking about the $5 million science of success. So John, what's the number one secret when it comes to becoming an entrepreneur that's netting $5 million a year?
Well, let me just explain this. Think and Grow Rich is talks about applying science to your life to up your success, which is something most people have never even thought about doing. And it's all predicated on one simple fact that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious. So to have a higher level of success than you currently have, you have to influence those unconscious daily actions. I mean, it's pure math, right? And this idea that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious, that we hear facts all the time. You don't know if they're true, if they're not true. And as I work with people, I make them Google it because this is so foundational. And if you Google what percentage of my daily actions are unconscious, in big dark letters, it'll say 95%. And that ends up being the domino with people. Once they get that, what I'm sharing with them is life changing for them because they see, oh, I got to influence those unconscious daily actions, and he's going to show me how to do that. Does that make sense?
It does. So 95% of our daily actions are unconscious. And so really it's just a mathematical equation of how much time are we spending on the subconscious, right? And influencing that, which could help us influence everything else. Is that a fair summary so far?
Brett, that's right. And let me go one step deeper on this. So think about this. We are all innately wired for survival. And what that means is that if 95% of your daily actions are unconscious, then and you're wired for survival, then when you wake up each day, you're innately wired to be fear-based, reactive, and negative. Well, that's exactly the opposite of the way you need to be if you want to be productive, creative, and happy. And so it causes you to play the game of life at 20% of your potential. And if you're a driven person, and let me just say, what I'm sharing with your audience today is only for driven people. If they're not driven, this isn't for them. But if you're driven and you realize you're playing the game of life at 20% of your potential, that's a big problem. And you got to learn how to override that natural bias towards survival each day, and you basically do it through this 12-minute a day program.
Okay,
Does
so
that make sense?
yeah, I think it does. Make sure I encapsulate that for our audience. So we're all wired for survival. That's our default position. And
Mm-hmm.
it's fear-based. I think you said doubtful. What did you say the other two were?
It's
Fear-based?
it's it's your fear-based, reactive, and negative,
Yeah.
and which all those things are great for survival,
Right.
but they're the opposite of what you want if you want to be productive, creative, and happy.
Got it. Right. And so I'm trying to think of another analogy for this, right? So we're naturally, I think of the physical, right? Where we may not want to work out right away, right? Or or eat healthy or
Hmm.
sleep well or drink enough water. Our default position is to, before we're working out and healthy and doing the certain things we should be doing, is to be less productive. Let's say uh, less organized. It's almost like E equals MC squared, right? Where you have a lot of chaos and disorganization, and then but until you put that effort into making something organized, are you going to be really productive? And so our default is fear-based, reactive, negative, kind of like if we're not working out. But
Right.
if we can move into the productive, creative, happy, which is where we all want to be, right? And now it's just a mathematical, or it's just an effort on that 20%. I'm probably not doing a great job on that, but what do you think? Help me out there, John.
Well, no, you're good. And here's the thing to understand. This is one step further in this. This is how the human mind works. So the conscious mind sets your intention and is influenced by logic, but the subconscious mind controls your everyday actions, and it's influenced by repetition. It doesn't care about logic. And Brett, here's an example of this. Let's say you want to lose weight. Well, the conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the health benefits. That's the logic. But the reason people aren't losing weight is for lack of intention, is because they're not influencing the part of their brain that controls their actions, what they're eating and exercising. And that's the point of this, is that that part of the brain only is influenced by repetition. That logic only influences the setting of the attention. It doesn't influence the actions. And that's why this 12-minute day technique influences the unconscious daily actions. Does that follow that?
I think I did, and that's incredible. So I want to dive right into this. So and of course, when you say driven, hungry, I think humble, right? Be open,
Mhm.
open to what you're about to say. Also be driven, hungry to actually make change or do level up what you're trying to do. So with that in mind, with that mindset that we're all going to take right now, what is the walk us through that 12-minute?
Okay. So here's how it works. The book Think and Grow Rich says there's a secret for success, and like I said, he only gives you half the secret. The half he gives you is that everything starts with a thought. Well, where do you go with that? I was puzzled by that, and once I dug into it, then I saw that the real simple concept of Think and Grow Rich is what you envision in detail on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that really means, Brett, is when you step back from your life and you create immense clarity, exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals, and you feed that clarity to yourself every day, and it takes 12 minutes a day. After about 21 days, the science kicks in, the subconscious mind starts accepting programming, and that influences your daily actions. And then those enhanced, improved daily actions creates the life you want, and you achieve your goals. It's just powerfully simple.
Okay, excellent. And we're going to do some examples of this. By the way, you can learn more about John Mitchell by going to thinkitbeeit.com. That's thinkitbeeit.com. Okay, so what you envision in your life is what you become, what we become. So the more we can have clarity behind what we want and what we want to become, the more we're actually going to be moving in that direction. Is that a fair summary?
Right, right. And if you don't mind, let me go a little deeper on this. That I mean, you got it. And one of the things that people say to me often is like, how does doing something 12 minutes a day take your income to $5 million after you live 20 years of low six figures a year? And here's the part of the story I didn't tell you when I turned 50. My mom was dying. She was dying of pancreatic cancer. And I remember every day after work going to the hospital to see her, and then I'd walk in the back in the parking lot and just cry my eyes out because I knew I was losing her and I didn't want her to see that. But it also made me think about my life. And my parents gave me everything. I mean, they sent me to Jesuit High School in Dallas when they probably didn't have the money. And I'm looking at my life and I'm like, all I've got is an average life. I'm not making a dent in the world. And, it was sort of that motivation of, you know, feeling like I was letting my mom down that caused me to really dig into that book and figure out the full secret. And as I look back now, that was so life altering. And to honor my mom, I ended up once I started making a million a year, I set up a foundation for single moms. So hopefully that honors her in some way. And today I think I honor her by teaching what I learned to other fellow entrepreneurs.
Got it. So your mom and the relationship you have with her, and then her death, and that experience of that help fuel the fire to make some of this change. You use that as a way to fuel the change. Is that a fair summary?
Right, right. And Brett, one of the things I noticed when I was 50 and I was trying to, figure out what's the problem is, I worked harder than everybody around me. And one of the things I thought was that if you'd asked me to rate myself as an entrepreneur on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have told you I was an 8. But when I crossed over to the other side of netting 7 figures a year, I'm like, boy, I wasn't an 8. I was closer to a 3 or 4. And it reminded me of that Bill Parcells quote, you are what your record says you are. Well, my record was saying I was a net 6 figures a year guy. And that if I wanted to net 7, I had to up my game as an entrepreneur. And I was just confusing working hard with being competent as an entrepreneur. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Yeah, it's like the ultimate scoreboard. I think Mark Cuban says it well, right? Out of the great state of Texas as well. It's like the ultimate scoreboard is business. It's 24/7. It's 365, and the scoreboard's there on the results of the sales, the revenue, of all of the things. And so, as an entrepreneur, right, we can kind of at times we have to be careful of not to get caught up in our feelings of our performance versus our actual performance. Is that what you're saying, John?
Right, right. And I really started thinking about what does it mean to be a competent entrepreneur? And what I came up with, and it comes down to, well, first of all, you got to be working on your business, not just in your business. And I'll give you an example of that. One of the things I teach our entrepreneurs is this idea that you got to set aside time to just think a couple times a week, and I call it deep thinking. And this is a technique that the top people in the world, like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, do, and I'll show you the power of this. So I was in the reverse mortgage business, and we were like the fourth biggest in the country, and the biggest in Texas. Had 175 employees, grossing about 25 million, and netting 5. And as I'm doing one of these deep thinking sessions, it comes to me that I ought to be in the title business because every reverse mortgage requires a title policy, and I was giving that away. And so I'm like, well, I'm getting in the title business. Well, that one idea uh, ultimately netted me about $6 million. And what was cool about it was, Brett, that idea was in my head, but I had to go deep to pull it out. You follow that?
I absolutely do. It makes perfect sense. I mean, part of what we do here, and I get people asking me all the time, is like, why aren't you in the 1031 exchange business? Because I'm a 1031 exchange expert, California real estate broker, and we're the Deferred Sales Trust, and we just refer that all out. I just completely just refer it all out. And there's been thoughts of that, like, well, why not just bring that in house? And because people say it'd be good to have both, you're already there. And so it's been a thought for that. But yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And it's almost like there's that gold in your brain, right? That idea,
Right.
that 6 million for you, it could be 1 million, it could be 100,000, whatever it is for different people, different places in their life. But until you're doing that deep thinking, you're not even know it's sitting there, right? So
Right.
it's scheduling time. So what have you found the best times to schedule that? What day of the week? What time of day? What do you do, John? What are your kind of your rhythm of scheduling those things?
Well, I'll walk you through this, and I have a gift for your audience, and so I'll share with you exactly how this works. So you got to pick when are you going to do it, and where are you going to do it. Well, I pick Wednesday and Sundays. Wednesday because it's the middle of the week, and Sundays because it's the end of the week, and you're more reflective. And then as to where to do it, I pick my favorite place in my house. Like I live on Lake Austin here in Austin, and so I go out on the deck. And then, so once I start the process, I get my thinking tablet, which is basically a pad of paper in a nice leather binder. And so I get in my nice comfy place, and I start this process. And really, Brett, it's a 3-step process. The first 10 minutes, and the thinking session will typically take 30 minutes. But for the first 10 minutes, I let whatever come to me come, just whatever it is. Then, after nothing else is sort of coming, then step 2, as I figure out the question to ask myself. And that changes how the brain functions when you ask yourself a question. So you figure out the question, then ask yourself a question, and then just let your mind go on that question. Then at the end of the session, step 3 is you draw a line under the last thing you wrote, and put the 2 or 3 takeaways, and then you put the 3 or 4 action steps that may come out of it. And then you go to your next week to-dos and put those action steps on next week's to-dos. So you're connecting your thinking to your actions. And so that's essentially how it works.
Okay, so let me say I got that. I think I got that, and it sounds pretty simple what you're saying, right? So Wednesdays and Sundays are your days. Pick
Right.
2 days. You do that for midweek, and a good time to do at the end of the week for reflection. 30 minutes. Pick a favorite place of the house. The first 10 minutes, you're just completely trying to relax your mind and relax to see whatever thoughts are going to be flowing, right? Whatever
Right.
comes, let that come. And then the next step would be figuring out the question to ask yourself, which we'll dive in here in a minute. But whenever you figure out that question, then you're going to ask yourself that question, and then you let your mind go and maybe start solving that question, and you're going to take 2 or 3 takeaways from that at the end of this thing, and then 2 or 3 action steps to take. Write those down, and then you're going to schedule that for the next week to get those going. Is that a fair summary so far?
Right, right. And I'll give you an example. I'll tell you why it works in an example, if that's okay. So the reason it works is because, let's say you get your week rolling on Monday. Well, you have a lot coming at you. You're hearing things, learning things, talking to people. But in the moment, you don't actually understand the significance of what you're hearing. You hear it, but you don't understand it necessarily. Well, you give your subconscious mind a couple of days to process it, and give it a venue for outputting that input. I mean, it's amazing. And this is, on the surface, it sounds like, well, yeah, I'm thinking twice a week. Well, first of all, this isn't normal thinking. This is deep thinking. But the bigger picture is most people have never ever tried to proactively influence their subconscious mind. And this is the first step to doing that. And once you start, again, conditioning that subconscious mind, amazing things happen. And I gave an example with one of my clients. So he's in the storage facility business up in Portland, and he makes a couple $1 million a year net doing it. And he's like a lot of our clients. Half our clients are already netting $1 million or more, and half are under $1 million. And so he does a thinking session, and I ask him to think about what moves the needle in his business. Well, he comes back and he says, well, I think getting properties I've recently acquired, getting them finished out and producing revenue is what moves the needle. And I'm like, I don't see that. I'm like, let's do a thinking session together. So I asked him, I said, well, what's your special talent? He tells me, he says, I'm really good at seeing opportunities and stories that other people don't see. And so I'm like, let's just think about this for a second and do this thinking together. And we think for a couple of minutes, and I say, Wade, I think what moves the needle in your business is is really bringing more properties into your evaluation pipeline and having metrics around that. Well, he took that one idea and now it literally doubled his net. Now he's netting $4 million a year. And that idea was already in his head. We just had to pull it out. But that's the power of this. And I'm going to give your audience a gift on this. If they'll go to thinkitbeit.com/CG for capital gains, thinkitbeit.com/CG. I'm going to give you a 5-minute video and a guide on what questions to ask yourself as you do this. And I'd love to teach your audience exactly how to do this.
Fantastic, John. Absolutely. Go to thinkitbeit.com/CG, CG for capital gains. And that's thinkitbeit.com/CG. Okay. So you got to be doing these deep thinking sessions. You got to do the work. You got to start to condition the subconscious mind. You got to ask yourself the right questions. And that's part of what the guide will give you. Some questions could be what moves the needle in your business. What's your special talent? And then write down what comes to mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Write down the action steps, then schedule those action steps. So talk about that. What does that look like for the following week, John, on average? So you come up with a couple ideas. For example, the guy says, my best talent is finding these deals. I have a special talent for seeing these deals. So what is it that he implemented that next week to help him apply what he just learned?
Well, let me back up just a little and talk about what I think the like 6 or 7 things that reflects the competence of an entrepreneur, and I think you'll see what I mean by this. So, the first thing for an entrepreneur to be competent at is figuring out what moves the needle and then focusing on it. So that's the first thing. They also have to be growing. They have to be bringing in the wisdom of experts into their head every week in areas that are strategic relative to what they want to accomplish. Because none of us are smart enough to be highly successful just on our own thoughts. They got to be highly organized. You can't be a 6 or 7 on organization and net $1 million a year. You got to be a 9 or a 10, and that's fairly simple. You got to plan your day the night before. You got to time block your day. You got to highlight the top 3 priorities each day. We give people a system to do that. You got to be innovating your marketing, which really means you got to be measuring it properly. Once you're measuring it properly, then you can continually innovate it. And you also got to have an A-player culture where you're an A-player leader and you're building a culture of A-players. And there's a whole art to that. But those are the things, in my view, that determine the competence of an entrepreneur. And these thinking sessions will stimulate things around those things that the entrepreneur will figure out that he needs to focus on each week.
Got it. Excellent. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. So we're up kind of against the wire here on timing. So I want to finish that last thought. So when you go to schedule this, you've already hopefully time blocked your day, organized your week, right? And then you're squeezing in a 30-minute part on this number one priority or this new priority, or walk us through that strategy there to make sure we're getting these things done first thing in the morning so we don't get caught in our day and our regular
Right.
routine, and then we all of a sudden we lost energy and we kind of just put it to the back burner, right? So walk us through the strategies to get this thing done.
Well, yes, you gotta read your 12 minutes a day first thing in the morning. And one of the things I think you'd find interesting is sometimes people will say to me, well, I don't know, this won't work on me. This works on everyone. I mean, it's pure science. It can't not work. But that doesn't mean it's right for everybody. And what I mean by that is it takes real effort to create the clarity. The 12 minutes a day is easy. The creating the clarity, candidly, is hard. Now, my partner and I help people with that. And that's why we're selective about who we work with. When we work with people, our goal is always to double their income within a year. And so we're really selective about who we work with. We even give a money back guarantee, and that causes us to be really selective that we're working with driven people. And I think what's different with this from everything else in the success and human achievement field and the coaching field is that everybody else is teaching you strategies. Well, hey, Brett, you got strategies coming out your ears. What you need is to get great strategies to show up in your daily actions and thoughts and show up automatically without thinking. And that's exactly what this does. It shows up automatically without thinking.
I love it, John. I'm resonating completely with this. And I think my audience is too. And also to clarify that the 12 minutes, I think we had the 30-minute deep session, the 12-minute one. What does the 12-minute look like every single day?
Well, keep in mind the thinking sessions are 2 times a week, 30 minutes a session. Okay, whatever days you pick. The 12 minutes a day is first thing every morning. Again, once you create that clarity, exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals, that's what you're feeding yourself every day. And the methodology, the mentoring, we call what we do, mentoring plus methodology. Mentoring teaches you the 6 or 7 habits. The methodology causes you, really 3 things, causes you to be able to do the habits automatically without thinking, causes you to be focused only on what moves the needle, and it causes you to be operate on a daily basis from confidence. And I say that because you're going to feed yourself like 7 things: what your business looks like 3 years from now, the 4 or 5 milestones to get there, your succinct business plan, your strategy for success, the 2 or 3 things that move the needle, the linchpin issue to go to the next level, your succinct mission statement and values. And think about that, Brett. If you're feeding all that to yourself, you have this immense sense of control over your life, and that control transfers to being confident. And it's 1,000 times better way to operate than how most entrepreneurs operate, where they're fear-based and they're uncertain and they're stressed. And I mean, it literally is 1,000 times better way to operate.
John, it makes perfect sense to me, and I never had it put this way. And I think about the times when we go to like these real estate conferences or these leadership conferences, or we go to church, and we have these experiences where we're getting clarity, we're doing some deep thinking, we're hearing some great input, right? And we're starting, and we come away with, it's like, as like a camper, I'd go to Christian camps growing up. And I love them. I want to take all my kids to them now too. And you'd have that week long of like everything structured, and then you come away with like this new sense of energy and vision and enthusiasm, right? But if you're not feeding what's been put into you, right? How do you keep that going? And what you're saying is 12 minutes a day. If you're clarifying who you want to be, what you want to accomplish, the actions that you need to be doing to do that, as well as the vision for the business itself and what that's going to help for you too. It's almost like it's just continuing to keep that fire going. Is that a fair summary?
Right. And it's sort of like the opposite of meditation. Meditation quiets the mind. Well, this focuses the mind. But I think I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, this gets it in shape. It's like the warm up before you go perform, right? And
Exactly.
it's getting the mind, the body, perhaps the spirit, the emotions all kind of connect. Maybe the meditation gets things, quiet, right? And gets it focused on the certain things. And this gets it to take action. So I absolutely love it. Oh my gosh, we're out of time. We're way over time right now. So I want to wrap up, and I'm probably gonna have John back on because there's so much more to cover here. But John, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you right now and take some action to get the method and the mentors, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
thinkitbeit.com/CG, or just thinkitbeit.com. But if you add CG to it, I have a special page for your audience. And can I add one very quick thing to
Yeah.
this? So, and this just happened to me not too long ago. So my stepdaughter had a baby just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Ginger and my wife go over to see her the day after the baby was born, and for some reason Ginger and Hannah let me alone with the baby, and I'm holding that little boy, and I'm thinking how precious life is. Just how precious life is. And I'm thinking, this little boy is going to he probably live for 100 years, right? And there's going to be good things that happen to him. There's going to be bad things that happen to him. But what his life is going to turn out to be is a function of his ongoing mindset and his ability and courage to take a hold of his life and create the life he wants. And I say that to your audience because every one of your lives is precious. And if it's not exactly what you want it to be, you got to have the courage to change it. And what I'm sharing with you is a new way of doing the game of life. And if you feel that scarcity of time, that's what I was feeling at 50. I think that motivates you, and just imagine the idea of playing the game of life just at a higher level. It's such a game changer.
Absolutely. Hey, John, I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing that story. That's very inspirational. And thank you for sharing all the wisdom with us today. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts and talents you've getting given to make complex things simple and to help people change their lives and their entrepreneur journeys by using the techniques that you've learned through Think and Grow Rich. Thank you so much for being on the show. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth. And getting with someone like John to get mentorships and the methods to help you level up and become all you were created to be in your business by using techniques to Think and Grow Rich. Oh my gosh, so great today. I hope you really enjoyed it. We're also streaming on expertcresecrets.com as well. Thank you for our listeners there. I want to remind everybody about our free mastermind that's every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we're talking about cryptocurrency, real estate, and the Deferred Sales Trust, and all things growing your wealth with that. Totally free. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com for that. And also, we're coming in with the book. Check it out. It's our first book. Big deal. Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. We're excited about this. It's the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. Please look out for this. It's coming out in about 30 days. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be a big launch. And so we're excited. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in here, and other amazing folks that are a part of, have their own chapter. So look for that. Thank you everyone for listening, and please subscribe, rate, review. Please share this with someone it can inspire today.